What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarych. We have a jam-packed week of shows. We're talking today about the Thunderbolts trailer that just dropped on Super Bowl Sunday. We got, on Wednesday, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, reviewing it at noon live with Dennis from the alternate timeline. On Thursday, we got not one, but two live shows. We're going to be talking Invincible Episode 4 with myself, Metalcore Nerds, Fat Thor, and Jam from the alternate timeline. One each. We got the duo on 2 different days this week. And then Thursday night, right after we all go see it in the theaters, 11 p.m. Eastern, when we get home, we're going live to give our immediate reactions and reviews for Captain America, Brave New World. And then on Friday, it doesn't stop. We got Severance, Episode 5, breaking it down with myself, Rachel Leishman, Leah Marilla Thomas, Rachel Tollison, all of the Mary Sue. And then on Saturday, guess what? It's still coming. Damon will be back with more Comic Corner, potentially joined by AF and Fat Thor. I don't know what the schedule is this week, but we got a lot. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bells. Live shows every day this week except for Tuesday. Speaking of Damon, I got him right here joining me to break things doing. As always, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. What a trailer that was for the big game, because I don't want to get sued. Big game trailer. No, like I was saying this to you guys off pod, it's very rare for me with a movie, especially a Marvel movie that comes out, that I get more excited with each trailer release than like what my initial anticipation was. Because when you have something like Secret Wars, for example, being not potentially, but coming out, you're like, anticipation's already 10 out of 10. That's the big end game type of movie. And with Thunderbolts, that was not the case. I mean, I was like, oh, okay, we're doing a Thunderbolts movie. That'll be interesting. I know we've been kind of leaning towards it and building up to it, but we're finally getting there. And then with each trailer, especially this one, it's like hype, anticipation, theory. Your brain starts to go on a little bit more. Very excited for this.
Couldn't agree more. I've gotten, like you were saying off screen, more and more excited with each piece of promotional material that has come out for this show. For those who don't know, for those who don't work in sports media, when you're having a monetized video, you can get yourself in trouble by saying the name of the big game in the NFL that just happened on Sunday, and so hence the avoidance there. But joining us as well today to talk about the Thunderbolts trailer, we got co-host of the Direct podcast, David Thompson. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, fellas. Thanks for having me so much. Man, I agree with Damon where I think the marketing for Thunderbolts has just been spectacular. I feel like not only has it won many viewers over, but each trailer has gotten better, which is a real tell, I think, for a great marketing rollout and just team working on the promotion for Thunderbolts. And I think it's only going to get better. Like, we're going to dive into it today, but each trailer, like, not only does it get to be more and more and more, but there's just a lot to discuss, right? Like, what's going on in this Thunderbolts movie? You know, like, there's it all began with an asterisk, right? And I think from that moment on, it was like, there's a mystery to this movie. Like, there's something else going on here. And I feel like that just keeps adding on and adding on. And the asterisk like kind of got solved yesterday. A lot of things kind of got solved yesterday. But I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. A lot to discuss.
Absolutely a lot to discuss. Since we got so many shows this week and we got a lot on the docket for this one, I'm going to skip Damon and I for what you're watching. We'll have time, Damon, to talk about what we're watching and reading over the next bit. But David, I do want to know about you. What have you been watching for fun lately for your own enjoyment? And of the big game trailers, obviously, I think Thunderbolts was all of our favorites. But other than that, were there any of the commercials or trailers that stood out that got you excited?
Yeah, I haven't been watching too much that's not like irregular. Severance for sure. Spider-Man, all those good things. I've been reading this book by Blake Crouch, Recursion. If anyone's seen Dark Matter on Apple TV Plus, it's a different book by that same author. I love Dark Matter. I love this book. He's great. And then other than this one, I'm a massive How to Train Your Dragon fan. And oh my gosh, we got the first look at the first flight sequence, and I'm I was tearing up. Like talking to Matt Rimke today on our podcast. I was telling him like, you know, I know there's going to be a few movies this year. I'm going to go out to the theater. I'm going to start welling up and maybe crying. And I guarantee one of those is going to be How to Train Your Dragon, just because the music is so great. I love the original trilogy so much. And I'm excited that full trailer drops on Wednesday to give us even more. But that 30-second tease we got last night was just, it gave me chills.
It did. Mason Thames is just really, really good with that. Like, the voice is perfect. He looks so good. Toothless obviously looks exactly the same as he does in animation, and good because he looks amazing in animation.
I love it. Yeah.
Damon, how about you? Any trailers from the big game that stood out to you?
Honestly, the Stitch one was the one that made me laugh the most.
Me
when you had
too.
Stitch running around the field, and it's like, hold on, wait a minute. And I'm like, yeah, that was good because I know myself, Ryan in the comments, who's the GOAT of our social media team, is very much on board of kind of like our Disney movies, and we are also on board of like, if they do the Stitch marketing, it has to be kind of like a little bit shoehorned into like maybe the Disney live action movie trailers and throw him in there kind of like they did with the original Lilo and Stitch movie when it came out so long ago. But he was just running around and causing chaos, and he looked good. Stitch looks good.
Looks great.
He looks really good, and I agree with Ryan and chat. Where's our full Stitch trailer? That movie is what, three months away. We got to get a trailer for this one coming soon. I want to shout out to our incredible YouTube chat joining us live right now. We got the Staples, Ryan, Brandon, MTF, Aisha, but we got Brian who made it for the very first time to a live show. Shout out to Brian for joining us. We got Pierre from the Direct, David's coworker, joining us in the live chat as well. So shout out to those joining us live. Shout out to those joining us after the fact. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about the Thunderbolt trailer. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming shows. Like I mentioned, we have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Invincible, Cap 4, Severance, breakdowns coming this week. In addition to the Comic Corner, we got interviews up with Captain America Brave New World director Julius Ona up on the YouTube page and wherever you get your podcast. You can also find my interviews with Robert Kirkman and Simon Rasiopa, creator and showrunner of Invincible, up on the YouTube page. And in a couple weeks, we got some really exciting interviews coming for Daredevil Born Again as well. So stay tuned, hit that notification bell and subscribe. But let's start talking about the Thunderbolts, because like you mentioned, the marketing has been great. This was a really, really exciting trailer. David, with the 3 big Marvel movies that are set to come out this year, we have Fantastic Four, Cap 4, and Thunderbolts. At the beginning, like say a year ago, I think Thunderbolts was my clear number 3 on that list of things I was excited for. I think it's 2 now, though. Where is it at? Where is it at for you?
Yeah, I would maybe say so as well. I mean, I think at that point, I'd kind of like my preparation, or I guess my anticipation of Cap 4 sunk down a little bit amidst the like reshoots and stuff, where I was kind of getting a little bit more concerned about that movie. But it really wasn't until San Diego Comic-Con Hall H, watching the first footage of Thunderbolts, where I was like, oh my gosh, this could actually be a lot of fun. Like, it was one of, besides the cuts we got of Fantastic Four in that moment, it was like the main talking point walking out of Hall H. Like, Thunderbolts look like it could be really good, and it's only gotten better. So I would say personally, yeah, I'm probably with you. Like, I love Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson. I'm so excited for that movie just for that alone. But at this point, yeah, I am more excited for Thunderbolts, and I am just anticipating it to be a better movie. Fantastic Four is still my number 1, though. That's just going to be that's just on its own like plane for me, though, personally.
Yeah, that's exactly the same for me as well. Fantastic Four in its own category for me. Aisha in chat with her Yelena Belova YouTube profile picture says Thunderbolts has always been her number 1. MTF saying he still wants to see Cap 4 more, but he thinks Thunderbolts has been unburdened by the negativity. I would agree with that take 100%. I think they're 2A and 2B for me, Thunderbolts and Cap 4. Cap 4, I think, has something hidden in this movie we don't know about yet that's going to be really massive stakes for the MCU, I think, and that's why they've only shown press the first 30 minutes so far. The premiere is 2 days before the movie comes out in theaters. Like, I think they're hiding something in this movie, and I'm really excited to see Sam Wilson as Captain America, Harrison Ford as Red Hulk, and the entirety of that film. Damon, how about you? Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, I'll even throw in Superman, And Cap 4. Where are your top 4 movies? How would you rank those
Superman
4
1?
movies
I'm
here?
sorry, everyone. Superman's my number 1 because that's kicking off the entire DCU proper. I know we did just have Creature Commandos, but that was like, as we said, the appetizer to the main entree. And everything with DC is riding on that one movie. With F4, worst case scenario with F4, we have the X-Men. Right? It's like there's still at least like an out there if all goes to terribleness, which I'm not expecting it to. This movie, as I said, it's just climbing up and up and up on my rankings. It's really hard to put it against a movie that's coming out in just like 4 days because I'm still really excited for Cat 4 and the potential, we don't know where it could be heading to, whether it is by the end of the movie an Avengers team is forming or not. We don't know. Clearly, by the quote in this trailer, there is no Avengers team by the time Cap 4 airs. After that, which I've heard rumors that this movie is taking place well after Cap 4, there's still no Avengers team. So it's like, okay, I'm curious what's going to happen in that movie. But no, this Thunderbolts ride has just been on the up and up for me.
Secret Avengers, potentially? What are the odds we have no Avengers team, but we have the Young Avengers, the Secret Avengers, the Dark Avengers here in Thunderbolts, potentially? I think we could maybe start seeing some different factions of Avengers teams here all coming together for Secret Wars as opposed to just one kind of main team. And perhaps after Captain America, Sam will be leading the Secret Avengers. We'll see.
If you want me to double down on that, I know a lot of people, when I think it was Bob Iger said we need Marvel to focus on their big name franchises, everyone absolutely panicked because they said, oh no, that means Iron Man's coming back. We're getting more of like the stuff that we used to do. No. The big name franchise in Marvel is the Avengers, which means, like you said, what could we possibly be getting?
Which
Dark
is
Avengers, which
imagine telling that to somebody 15 years ago, 20
right.
years ago.
But like Dark Avengers, where this could be going. Secret New Avengers, Young Avengers, and then hasn't been brought up yet, West Coast Avengers, one of my favorite runs. So there's a lot of different Avengers factions, but they say Avengers in it, and that's a thing that clearly gets the general audiences going.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I like that idea. First person, like character I wanted to talk about was Bucky, and we obviously don't have to go into Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier's comic book origins, and who is this guy? We all know who Bucky is.
Who's
We're
Bucky?
all fans of the MCU. We've seen him many, many times. Yeah. And so with that being the case, I kind of want to pivot the conversation with Bucky into one. I love the fact that the chat is going crazy saying the thing that is hidden in Captain America Brave New World that we don't know about yet is Bucky Barnes, and he's going to be a big part of this movie and we just don't know about it yet. That would be cool because more Bucky is great. We want more Bucky always. But with this movie, I think it's so interesting that they're doing the tagline of they're not heroes. We're not heroes. This is not a group of heroes. This is a group of screw-ups. But who was the ultimate MCU, not screw up because he was tortured and brainwashed, but villain turned hero? There's Loki and there's Winter Soldier. There's Bucky Barnes. And so him leading this team, recruiting this team of people who, have some good in their hearts, but have done a lot of bad as well when their backs have been up against the wall or for their country or because that's what they were conditioned to do from being a child. And so he, to me, makes the perfect person to lead this team, David.
Yeah, I like how in this trailer we're kind of getting the idea where, we've already kind of gotten the tease before from Yelena being like, yeah, we all do these kind of like missions. We're all assassins, contract kills, all these things. But in this trailer, it's like, okay, why are we coming together? How are we coming together? And Bucky seems to be that like linchpin, which, like you pointed out, is a great, perfect character to be that because he was Frankenstein's monster, right? He was the scary monster in the closet that they brought out once in a while to wreck shit up, right? For lack of a better term. And I feel like he's now, because he's gone through the Wakandan, mental therapy eventually and kind of got through it. And all he's been through in the MCU, like literally we have the most on Bucky of probably any character in the MCU at this point now all the way in 2025. He's like the perfect leader of this group. And I love the idea, like we talked about, I think it was before we were recording, like the whole Suicide Squad comparisons. And I've never really liked those comparisons. And I appreciate how I feel like this trailer, above all, with the leadership of Bucky and like actually showing these characters as characters, even though they are all these like metahumans, superpowers, you know, assassins, people that can really get jobs done. And maybe the last few years, they haven't been using them for the right reasons, but they still can, right? And Bucky's the perfect leader of that group and the perfect like person to communicate that. So yeah, I love this trailer. Got me the most excited actually for Bucky. So I'm glad that we led with him because he's always been a great character, but I'd love to see him in a film be the leader, right? Be the 1A hero character.
Great point by Pierre and Chad, and we'll get to Sentry shortly, but also a character that's potentially been locked up and used for the ends of others. And, you know, wonder how that'll be relevant in this movie as well. Damon, feel free to talk about what your thoughts are on Bucky leading this team, but also lead us into Yelena Belova, because I think as much as, you know, like Iron Man makes a joke in Age of Ultron that actually he's the leader. I just pay for everything, make everybody look cool about Captain America. And as much as Iron Man is maybe the strategic head, the brain, if you will, of the Avengers, as I think Bucky will be for this team, the heart of this movie, the soul of this movie, it's going to be Yelena Belova.
No, I totally agree with that. To go back to Bucky, my last point with him, I would say, is it's very symbolic of, like, you know, the comic origin of what the Thunderbolts team is, where Bucky is in the place of Hawkeye, where Hawkeye's a guy who used to be a villain, turned good, has a little bit of like the sketch past type of ordeal. So if you want to have like a 1-for-1 MCU to comic comparison of who would fit that role, Bucky is that guy, at least in the MCU of it all. To go into Yelena, I totally agree. She is going to be the heart and soul of this movie. In my opinion, she has the most to lose in this movie, especially with Alexei Red Guardian being on this team. And I have a bad feeling that it's not gonna make it to the end of the movie. So she's going to be the linchpin at this point too. Like, we've seen it already with Bucky through Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He kind of had his full character arc. He is back. He's been almost like quote unquote completed in a way. I really don't know what more we can do with him just as a character from that show to now. Yelena, we've had her in Black Widow and obviously Hawkeye since then. And this is kind of her big third appearance on pushing her character forward. So like I said, she has the most to lose in this movie, and she probably will lose quite a bit out of it. I know she's already lost Natasha. She may lose Red Guardian as well. And if that happens, that's going to be a stinger, because you're going to need a stinger in this one.
And we're going to play a little game of who survives, who dies in this movie, not to make it too Suicide Squad-esque, but Chad talking about Red Guardian. Obviously, the most popular theory from this movie, based on the footage or lack thereof, is that Taskmaster is not going to be making it out of this movie. We'll get to that in a bit, but let's talk about Red Guardian right now. Or, sorry, David, final thoughts on Yelena, and then lead us into her dad, Red Guardian, as well, because we see, like, one, I think his main driving purpose of this movie will be the comedic relief, because David Harbour as Red Guardian is hilarious. But we've already seen from the trailer, there is some emotional moments between Yelena and Red Guardian.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go. I loved their dynamic in Black Widow. Like, this movie in general is such a natural assembly of characters, actually, in a way. Like, I actually think that this assembly of the Thunderbolts, or whatever they end up being called ultimately, will be a more organic situation than Doomsday, most likely. Like, it actually makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciated their relationship in Black Widow. I'm excited to see it more for that comedic relief, but also for the heart of it. You know, with Yelena, just give me more Florence Pugh. I love her so much. I'm so excited to see her back in the MCU. And I think she's just one of the best working actresses. But on Red Guardian, I think, he seems like if there were like Vegas odds for who does and doesn't make it out of this movie, I think he would be like maybe like minus 110 to not make it out. That would probably be where I would set that line. And in general, I could see where that would work positively for Yelena's character. Both actors, very, very busy people. David Harbour, a very busy guy, got a lot going on. He's in so many different projects that we watch. And with Red Guardian, I think, the comedic relief will definitely be there. But I'm excited to see more of that super serum action as well. Like this guy is juiced up, and we have like lines of him talking about like the super serum, like which one did you get and all this stuff. So I'm excited to see him also like fighting the good fight, maybe using some of his like incredible strength against Sentry, and however that's gonna end up looking.
People talking about wanting more of Ghost and Taskmaster in chat. Shout out to Reeds, co-host of the A Bite of Pod podcast. A Bite of Pod. I don't know how to say that properly. A Bite of Pod podcast. Just a bite of pod. A bite of the pod. I agree. Like Bucky and Yelena, I'd say, are for sure making it out of this movie. If Bucky doesn't, there's gonna be riots in the streets. I don't know about Bucky for sure. I'd say Yelena for sure. I don't know about Bucky for sure, but there'd be riots in the streets if Bucky does not.
I'm putting even odds for Bucky. I'm sorry. I'm putting even odds because I know Red Guardian will be a stinger. I know Red Guardian will be a stinger. I know it will be. But I'm sorry. You need one that hurts. You need one that hurts so bad. And how terrible would it be, TJ? How terrible would it be if Bucky sacrifices himself for John Walker?
I would hate it. I would hate every second of it.
Bucky has died like 2.5 times already in the MCU. So like I'm kind of done with Bucky dying. It's one of those where I'm like, all right, like just stick around, man. We know you're not actually dead. But we'll see. I mean, I think the idea of even odds is true. Yelena, I think, is the most safe by far. If she, yes. I wouldn't mind placing like a bet, like a parlay of like just Yelena survives and everyone else dies. Like that you probably get some pretty good odds on that.
Let's go straight into the game, and we'll go into the other character breakdowns after the fact. Look, honestly, I don't even think we need a character breakdown of John Walker. You want no more John Walker, go look at Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Go watch it. It's a fantastic show. In the comics, it's very similar to who he is in this. He's a perfect soldier that turns into a super soldier, but not necessarily a great guy, like a great man like Steve Rogers is, like they intended when they originally created the super soldier. But let's go into who lives, who dies. Official prediction. Does Bucky Barnes survive this movie?
No.
Yes.
2-1. Damon says no. Get it on the record. He says Bucky Barnes will not survive this movie. Official prediction. Does Red Guardian survive this movie?
No.
That one's tough.
I want to say no just because he feels like the person. And I love the chat's answering as well. I want everybody's answer. For each of these characters we're going through. I think Red Guardian doesn't. He just feels like the person that would make the most sense to go, but at the same time, I do wonder if they just love David Harbour too much that they just want to be able to keep using him if they want to, just so they can use him for a few lines in Doomsday. But I know, Damon, what you're about to say. It's a multiverse. You could always bring him back.
We have Secret Wars coming up.
I know. But I don't think he's going to do it. We have not talked about this character yet. Will Taskmaster survive this movie? Why or why not?
I don't think he's going to survive the trailers.
Forget the first movie. One to go, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, here's the thing. Like, it's got to be a red herring. Like, for everyone out there listening, the live chat right now, notice how Taskmaster's just gone, like, immediately, right? I think in marketing, we've only seen mask on, by the way, a masked Taskmaster, and that's it. And then she's just erased. And here's the thing, man, and I'm excited to hear, TJ, what you have to say. It's odd for the MCU to do this. We had full-on CGI fake scenes of Infinity War, and now in Thunderbolts, we're going to just be, like, spoiling that she dies? I don't know. It's My assumption is that she will die,
Oh
but it's a
my
little too
God,
obvious.
Wait a minute.
I like Pierre's theory here in chat that like they do seem to be throwing a bunch of crazy wonky powers at Sentry. One of them being, hold on, I saw it in a tweet and I sent it to Damon.
Hold on. What's like what's Sentry's
up.
like, you know, secondary Magus type of name?
The Void, right?
What if he just sends people to the Void?
Umbra Kinesis. Umbra Kinesis. He's using shadow power. He's sending people to the Void. And so I do like Pierre's theory that like she gets sent to the Void in the first act and then comes out by the third, then she's actually still alive. Damon, what do you think? Official prediction, live or die Taskmaster.
Dead. First one to go, but if she is like voided kind of like in that way where Loki like, you know, stick thrown into the void, because that may be what happens with this version of Bob's powers, where when he has that Umbra Kinesis, a shadow ability to make people go poof, they send them to the void. That would actually be kind of smart. Dang.
Here's what I think is going on with this trailer. Before I even get there.
Okay.
Damon, I'm teasing it further. Damon, who is Taskmaster in the comics?
Taskmaster is Tony Masters, who is a very loudmouth New York copycat who's absolutely terrified of Moon Knight.
I'm so happy you said the thing I wanted you to say, and that he is a very loud-mouthed villain. This is a guy that talks shit as he fights all the time. It's a person that has the ability to mimic, watch, photographic memory, watch, and immediately be able to mimic the moves of the person they're fighting. And he talks so much shit while he's doing it. I think most of the people who watch Black Widow, other than the annoying bigots, I think there are some Taskmaster fans out there. You've seen him in the Spider-Man game. You've seen him in cartoons, various things like that. I think most people weren't upset at all that there was a gender swap. I think most people were upset that Taskmaster didn't say a word the entire movie. Why make it Taskmaster? Why make the character Taskmaster?
Yeah.
What if she can now? What if she has rehabilitated herself and she is talking shit the entire movie, and they're keeping that as a tease for when the movie comes out? People wouldn't give a damn about Taskmaster. She was underused in the first movie. She didn't talk. Who cares, you know? But what if she becomes the unsung favorite character of this Thunderbolts movie because they're hiding her from the trailer because she's going to be loudmouth shit talking the whole time?
I'm not mad you brought that up, TJ, because I said that well over a year ago that this could be the big rebound movie for Antonia Masters here. After this trailer, though, I do not think that is happening. After they leave that Avengers Tower, which is no longer Avengers Tower, clearly, after it looks like they fight some version of the Sentry, she's not there when Yelena's visibly upset.
What about this?
I feel like the different part of the shot.
What about this? What if, I like the trail you went on there, TJ, but what if it's more so they're hiding her because it is an MCU thing they've done before, like with the Mandarin, where a whole different character, Tony Masters, is in the movie, and we get the real Taskmaster, and there's something like that, right? Where it's a complete like hook and ladder surprise for MCU fans, where she's being hidden because we're getting a different character. Now, I don't know, right? But it's clear they're not just, I think what is clear is that they're not just hiding her early death, they're hiding something more, right? There's got to be something more. And I think you don't bring back Taskmaster. That was, I mean, let's just be honest, that was very, very harshly received by fans after Black Widow, and just kind of run it back. There's got to be something else there. And I like your theory where it's like the same character, but it's totally different. And by the way, in the timeline, she would be totally different, right?
It'd be like over 10 years.
Yeah.
Almost like 10 years since we've seen her in universe.
Exactly. So
2 options I think would be pretty cool there. There's almost that 10-year gap. So she grows, she talks shit now. She changes her name to Tony Masters with an I, Tony with an I Masters, and that is as MTF.
The internet would love that. Yeah.
That's her. Or maybe she is the same person, and like you said, David, the actual Tony Masters is hiding behind the scenes and now training her to betray this team, and that's why she's not in some of these scenes. I think it's all possible. Damon, we saw Ghost debut in Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second Ant-Man movie, right in between Infinity War and Endgame. And although this wasn't like a comic character like a Taskmaster that people actually really cared about that much going into this, not as well known, I think the character was really interesting in Ant-Man and the Wasp. The actor did a wonderful job, and I think the character herself was pretty darn cool. Does this character have much backstory alongside of them? What do you think we get of Ghost in this movie?
I think Ghost probably survives the longest strictly because Ghost was the wild card in all of this. Ghost is the only one who isn't essentially a super soldier. She actually has like a set of powers here, which would make me believe, if we're finalizing the end of our game, I think she is alive by the end of this movie because of that. And I find her the most interesting because of that as well, because we now have an entire group of super soldiers plus Ghost who are taking on a being who has the power of 1,000,000 suns. A million exploding suns. Like, you need, as we've kind of hinted going forward, we may need another individual to come in and give them a hand. I do not think that is Tony Masters here. You need someone who's more than just that. You need more oomph there. And I think,
you know who you need?
If rumors indicate things, if theories indicate things, we can still have somebody come late into the fray here.
We could have somebody coming late into the fray that needs to match up against Sentry, because like you said, that's one of my favorite explanations for how powerful Sentry is, the powerful of 1,000,000 exploding suns. And we'll get into his character description more here in a little, but I love that. And I do think the character that would make the most sense to come in for the Thunderbolts to help provide a little bit of muscle against the Sentry would be Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
David, there's two key members. One, Thunderbolt Ross, Red Hulk, who seems like he could be a good addition to this. Another one that is, they said is in the movie, he said isn't in the movie, and we haven't seen him, any reasons for him to be in this movie, but the most prominent Thunderbolt in comics is Baron Helmut Zemo. Do you think we see any Zemo or Red Hulk in this movie?
Man, if I was picking of the two, I would have to say Red Hulk would be more likely, just because I think from a general audience perspective, it's like Thunderbolt Ross not being in Thunderbolts that releases a couple months after he makes his Red Hulk debut. It kind of just seems like an MCU thing to do. But Zemo also is a little lower stakes in terms of just like getting him to come on set, right? Lack of CGI, like keeping it more of a secret. So that kind of makes me like think maybe that would be possible. Quickly on Ghost, by the way, I'm really excited to see her powers mesh with this group, especially because Ant-Man and the Wasp had some interesting ideas. I'm not sure if the movie was like that great, but some great ideas. And Ghost has like an incredible power set that could be like really visually appealing. And just like we saw with Sentry, you guys were talking about earlier, with putting people in the void, like visually appealing heroes and villains are really kind of what we need, I think, in like the 2020s of superhero films, because we've already seen so much, right? We've already gotten so many interesting characters, villains, heroes, superpowers, flying. The more interesting ones, I think the better. So I hope Ghost makes it through the movie.
It'd be really cool with Ghost's phasing abilities. I do think just of this regular group, she should in theory be the most powerful member of this group outside of Sentry by far, in theory. I do wonder if Sentry's thing does just become putting people in the void if her phasing ability could be the thing that gets them out. If maybe she becomes the key to saving the people within the void because she can phase in and out of it. Damon, what do you think? Will Zemo and or Red Hulk show up in the Thunderbolts?
No and no. No, because it's pretty much already been out there that Zemo's not going to be in it. And then no for Thunderbolt Ross because it's Harrison Ford, guys. that probably would have either A, come out, or B, it's also Harrison Ford. I cannot see him doing more than one of these movies. I just cannot.
Dude, you say that, but like I've seen all the press conferences and stuff like this. Like he's seeked out the MCU, not vice versa, because of like friends he has that have had a great time and people he respects had a great time, and he's just having a blast.
I just don't see it.
I think he's kind of playing.
I'd be very surprised.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know though. Like it's got to be mentioned.
If he was, I feel like they would have had to bring it up by now, or like at least showcase it, right? Like,
I wonder why this group
like to live in a world where I still like to pretend we live in a world where secrets can be kept. You know, I don't think they really can be, but I like to pretend and hope.
I think there still is a secret in this that they haven't officially announced yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, a bunch. I just wonder why this MCU version is called the Thunderbolts, right? Like we get that line in the trailer, like Red Guardian saying it. It's like, where's that come from? It just seems so out of nowhere if it's not related to Thunderbolt Ross.
I want that to be an audio voiceover or a deleted scene to where it actually is Alexei saying like, we are the Avengers or the new Avengers or something. And then that's where Bucky's like, we can't call ourselves that.
That would make more sense, right? Yeah. Like that would make that. I could see Alexei saying that, right? Like more naturally, honestly, like we are the new Avengers. I think that would be something he would say.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. I'm just trying to, throw some things in the air so we can say we talked about it. If it does happen. Pierre makes a great point. In the comics, like the name Thunderbolts is completely unrelated to Thunderbolt Ross. I do think it would just be an MCU type of thing for them to do to tie it to him. And then just if they needed some big muscle, I do think there is a route to that kind of possibly happening. Chad also saying they want what?
They call him the Thunderbolts because Thunderbolt Ross is already dead and this is his dream.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah, the dead part. I've seen the dead theory. We'll see. Sorry. No. I mean, I think
that's after him. I think that's very reasonable too.
We should know more post Cap 4, right? Like I would like to think in a week we'd be having a radically different conversation right now, right?
True. Very good point. Chat says they want Justin Hammer and Sam Rockwell back as Justin Hammer for this one. That would be a really funny addition. But let's talk about Sentry. Because Damon, this is a character with a very wide-ranging comic history that has changed multiple times. His power sets have changed over the years. Where I got introduced to this character was my favorite comic run growing up. I've told this story before, but I had my mom would make me take typing lessons at home. She said, computers are going to be the future. You need to take typing lessons so you're going to be good at it. And I thank her so much that she made me do it because I am a very fast typer now. But we had computer class growing up because computers was just a class in elementary school because we had to learn how to utilize these things. And so a lot of that would be practicing typing. And since I already knew how to do it, I just got to hang out in the computer classes. And my teacher, who ended up being a colleague and a friend in my adult life, was a big comic book nerd. And he would read comic runs. And then as soon as he was finished reading it, he would bring it to me to read and then to give back to him. And so the first one that we got to do all the way from start to finish was World War Hulk. And the story, if you don't know it, is essentially the Illuminati, who we've seen in the MCU. But this version is Tony Stark, Mr. Fantastic, Black Panther. Namor wasn't involved, but he was in it. Professor X wasn't involved, but he was in it. And Black Bolt. And that was the Illuminati. And they decided, hey, Hulk's too dangerous. Bad things can happen. We are going to send him on a ship to a different planet that is full of wild game and he can just rampage and have fun. Well, over the years, Hulk gets smarter. Over the years, Hulk gets a wife. Over the years, Hulk's wife dies because, and he thinks it's the Illuminati's fault. and he is pissed. He's pissed they sent him away. He's pissed they ruined his life, and he comes back to Earth. And this is a raging Hulk like we've never seen before. And he takes over the world, New York, and destroys the Avengers, takes people out one by one. Everybody keeps getting sent against him, and they keep losing over and over and over again. He's killing them. He's taking them right out. They ask Thor for help. Thor doesn't want to help because at this point, the Avengers had just cloned Thor because they needed a Thor on the Avengers team, and he was pissed about it. So he didn't want to go help. And eventually, the person they go to is a character named Sentry, who has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, like Damon, who said, who is at this point in this story also dealing with schizophrenia. And he is not essentially the most reliable superhero to go throughout there, but he is strong as all hell. And if there's one character who could beat the Hulk, it's this guy. And then I won't spoil the ending, but they essentially go toe to toe for multiple issues, and it's really cool. Damon, how do you know of Sentry through the comics? What do you think his power set will be in this movie? And what do you think about this character being the villain or potentially villain for a bunch of super soldiers?
Yeah, there's a comic called The Sentry that came out in like the early 2000s that I highly suggest, and it just kind of gives you like the Sentry's like whole rundown. His name is Bob. He was a drug addict. He went in for a serum. The serum gave him super soldier powers, and it gave him super duper soldier powers. Super duper super soldier powers. Wow, that is a tongue twister. And it gave him like, the ability to fly, 10 million, 1,000,000 exploding suns. We sent it 1,000,000 times. Anyway, the whole thing is he is like a good guy at heart, but you mentioned his schizophrenia. It's this other personality, this other thing that's been developed called the Void, that is kind of like all his fears and anxieties wrapped into a being, and it takes over at times. Eventually, throughout years, all the Avengers, all the Marvel Universe kind of had to look at this guy and be like, this is a problem. We need to put this guy away. They eventually do put him away, and then kind of like Peter Parker, one more day, mind wipe everyone to make it believe that Sentry never existed. But he is that much of a threat that they had to literally mind wipe everyone because of how stupidly powerful this one individual is.
And going against him is Ghost and a bunch of super soldiers and an assassin.
Yeah.
David, what
Yes,
was
sir.
your background knowledge of Sentry prior to this movie, if any? And how excited are you for this character? What do you think his powers are going to be? What do you think will be his arc?
Yeah, really surface level, just knowing like the Sentry, the Void, like almost, I forget what comic run I was reading. I want to say it had to do with Secret Wars. Gosh, I forget. Anyway, it's like talking about the Void and that idea. I wonder, moving this into the MCU, like his power set, the schizophrenia of it all. I wonder what that mechanism is going to be, because there's always a mechanism in the MCU. I feel like for like these dual characters, like for instance with Bucky, we were bringing it up earlier in the chat as well, like the comparisons between those two characters. And I wonder, like, is there a switch? Does Val have a switch for Sentry? Like, is there something like that happening? Because like, what are Sentry's motivations? How is he being guided in this movie too? Because like this trailer was finally our first time getting to see the Void, right? Like basically the evil of it all, the antagonist. We get that different voice when he rips off Winter Soldier's arm and throws it. Great moment, by the way. Seeing him just like floating ominously, in the shadows and the helicopter crashing. All great stuff, great moments. Is he going to be overpowered? How is it going to be, resolved? How is the power set going to be? Which is something I think the MCU sometimes has an issue with. It's like power sets, like logic, especially like in the Avengers movies. It's like, all right, I'm not sure the X character is doing exactly what like Thor can do, right? But
insert Wanda and Vision getting torched by the Black Order, and Sam, Captain America, and Black Widow saving the day from two of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, I feel like they have to have, I know we're getting real like in the weeds nerdy wise, but like the movie has to have a plan for like how they defeat Sentry. If they defeat Sentry, like how does that make logical sense? Yeah, right.
No. Do you want to hear my plan? You want to hear my idea?
Yeah.
We have a character. We have an actress who has been cast in this movie. We don't know too much about her yet. oh golly, Geraldine Viswanathan. There's a character in traditional Thunderbolts comics that people, when they announced Thunderbolts, they said, "Are we getting so and so?" And I feel like we are getting so and so, but their
Who's
powers
so-and-so?
will probably be boosted up. And so TJ is Songbird. I feel like we are finally actually getting Songbird in this. Whether she is someone who may have also like injected that same super soldier serum and gets similar abilities plus her, I hate to say Black Canary-esque powers, but it is like audio wave type powers. And if you actually want to compare it, Black Canaries is like way more powerful. So if you push her up a few notches, I feel like that would be a good way to deal with it. But that has to be, in my opinion, that has to be the plan here for this ragtag super soldier group to take down a being that is just as powerful, if not more powerful than like Superman, who also can clearly like zap people into a shadowy realm, who that may be the Void.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to. I think I like that theory because I want it to make sense, you know. And I think there has to be, you know, an ace up their sleeve, basically, because the group they're presenting to us, nah. And that's what this, by the way, that's what this trailer. Going back to this specific trailer, that's what this trailer shows us, that they are outmatched, you know. And there isn't really a sign for hope at the end of this thing, besides the power of friendship, of course.
Will Sentry, Val, or someone else end up being the main antagonist of this film? Do we think it's going to be a Val pulling the strings until Sentry gets out of control and there's no true antagonist other than just stopping Sentry? Or will there be something else?
In my
David,
opinion, TJ, I would say it's your first thing. I think it would be Val pulling the strings, being 4 steps ahead on everything, especially with Sentry, but not anticipating him to get as out of control as he does with like the Void persona, and then it gets too ding dang far.
MTF suggesting in chat that the Sentry and the Void will split into 2 entities and fight in the final act. I hope it's not just that. Like, I hope it's not like
so
big super guys fight at the end after this great familial redemption movie. David, what do you think? Who's going to end up being the main antagonist?
For me, it's hard because I'm trying to think back to the trailer and like I just don't understand what Val's motivations are. You know, like what? It's right now. It's just so. I feel like we're missing so many parts of the equation. You know, it's like, so then why? Who's everyone fighting? You know, like why are we all like kind of on the same team, but we're not? Like I don't know. It's interesting to me. So my gut says Val for that reason, because I feel like that's also very MCU for it not to be Sentry, you know, and like Sentry to basically like Bob in this example, just to kind of like be used, you know.
Sentry is the Winter Soldier, but way stronger, and Val is Alexander Pierce.
Exactly. And I think that's probably the direction they're going, with some kind of a twist. And I think we've all, us three, the chat, we've all kind of like, I think in this conversation, started circling around this whole like super serum, mind control, head wash. Something is going on in this movie. That to me, besides power of friendship, is what's going to be connecting all of them. Are their backgrounds and like just kind of like the struggle / just like torture they've all been through, and that includes Sentry.
Final thoughts from the trailer. We got Avengers Tower. We know Damon, you said you were watching a new Rockstars video this morning, and they kind of either confirmed or gave their best guess that this does take place after Captain America: Brave New World, which I do think raises the question, where is Sam in all of this? Where is the Red Hulk in all of this? Who knows? Maybe Brave New World is the secret.
Sharon Carter dealt with all of them, TJ. Sharon Carter dealt with it.
Maybe Sharon Carter pops up as a antagonist in one of these 2 movies. Like, there's a whole lot that we don't know going in. How, like, Val bought Avengers Tower. They're all getting back together with them. Bucky's assembling the team. The trailer's jam-packed with comedy and emotion. We have no idea how they're going to stop Sentry. We have no idea what the asterisk in Thunderbolts means. Are they going to be the Dark Avengers?
Yes.
There's a lot to this movie we don't know, and it definitely makes it a hell of a lot more exciting. David, final thoughts from the trailer. What sticks out to you? Any final theories or anything like that?
Man, I mean, I've been on the Dark Avenger theory for sure. Like I've been convinced of that for a while now, where the asterisks it's just too blatant. It's like they're really, and they really emphasize it so much. And I love the idea that they are the Avengers or like a version of that. And quite frankly, it almost doesn't really matter, but whatever makes sense in the universe, like make that make sense. When it comes to like the Avengers Tower, I'm curious if we leave Thunderbolts and who then owns the tower, right? During the movies, maybe like Val's bought in it or like there's some control like that, but who leaves the movie holding the keys to Avengers Tower? To me, that's going to be interesting.
Post-credit scene is Bucky and Sam with the keys to Avengers Tower, and they're just making themselves at home.
It's just Sentry like floating over, just like with darkness all around him. Cut the black. that's
Damon,
how
final thoughts from the trailer. Any other theories? Any other parts that stuck out to you that you want to touch on?
I love for two things to happen in this movie, but this is just, I don't expect them to happen. I just love them to happen. What's the next movie coming out after this, TJ?
Fantastic Four.
Yes, sir. Who should take over that building? It should be the new Baxter building. I would love for the first or second post-credit scene to be the Fantastic Four showing up into a vacant building that may or may not resemble what their Baxter building interiors are, or whatever. They're in Manhattan. They're like, we'll pick up shop here, I guess. That would be cool. I don't think that'll happen, but it would be neat. And the other thing, I am starting to really like this idea of Sentry / the Void sending people.
Boom, who just entered the universe for the first time buying it.
It's possible. It's possible. No. Actually, no. I'm starting to really think about this idea of the place that the Sentry sends people to is the Void. So that way, I hate to Chewbacca this, but that way, if we see Bucky get the shadowy axe from Void, the last post-credit scene is Bucky waking up in the Void. With the beginnings of Battle Worlds start to really take their shape.
Yeah, do we think Sentry has a role? Like, we didn't really talk about his, like, will he live or survive? I wonder if, I'm curious if Sentry, like, makes it out of this movie. Because if he does, you imagine then he has a role in Avengers Doomsday. And Feige said, I mean, we can now assume whoever makes it out of the Thunderbolts will be in Doomsday as well, with the Fantastic Four. So it's like, how do those connections happen? By the way, I forgot I had one other like idea / theory. Adamantium is brought up and introduced the MCU in Brave New World. In this movie, US Agent's shield gets bent like into like a taco tortilla looking thing. I don't know. Maybe we get some adamantium. Like
that'd be a great tie.
Yeah, like I just am curious because that's what's interesting about like the rights coming back so late in the MCU. It's like now we have adamantium, and like versus we've always had vibranium. It's kind of been like the MCU's version of adamantium, at least to me, like in many different ways. So I'm curious like how that'll start beyond the X-Men eventually, how that could start like affecting other parts of the MCU.
And the last thing is to go back to where this name of the Thunderbolts comes from or whatever. And it was like, oh, maybe Alexei at one point says, we will be known as the Avengers. What if he says we'll be known as the Dark Avengers? And that's where Bucky's like, that's stupid. But by the end of the movie, in order for Yelena to honor Red Guardian, she names this new team who could be consistent of like her, Ghost, US Agent, I'm sorry, everyone, and Songbird. And she's like, I have an idea for a name. It's gonna be dumb. You're gonna hate it. And that is the Dark Avengers.
I'm kind of all aboard the multiple factions of the Avengers and not one Avengers team. Dark Avengers, Secret Avengers, Young Avengers, West Coast, however you want to do it. I think that's all really possible going into the future here. Some discussion for it in the chat with like, obviously, Sentry's alter ego being referred to as the Void, but the Void is a name that has been used in the MCU already through Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine. Do we think this shadow universe, whatever it is, shadows that are coming out of Sentry that he's controlling, is this the same Void? Is it going to connect? Is this going to be a different Void? Are they going to change the name for Sentry? How do we think it's going to go?
No, that's what I've been saying. I think when Sentry shadows people, they sends them to the Void. So
that same Void.
Yeah. There's only one Void.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is there one? Is it two? Is it going to be a different name for Sentry?
That's interesting.
Or it's gonna all connect?
No, there's only one Void. It is the Void. That's why it's like when Bucky gets, and it's like everyone's like, but post-credit scene, it's the same Void. So Bucky wakes up in the Void, the beginnings of what Battleworld probably will be.
So I was gonna ask this. Like, of Brave New World and Thunderbolts, because we're week of Brave New World coming out. Like, which movie do we think has higher potential to have a multiversal aspect to it? So I guess the answer would be Thunderbolts, probably because of Sentry.
I think so. Either that or, like, I think Thunderbolts is more likely to have potential plot elements involving the multiverse, and I think they're both probably equally likely to have some kind of like post-credit or just like end of movie stinger involving it. Like, I could very much see Brave New World ending with like Sam in a different universe, like the Marvels did with Monica.
Right. That'd be really cool. That would make sense for Thunderbolts too. Why he's
not there, right?
And then why there's no Avengers?
Yeah.
It's just the name of it all. His alter ego's name is the Void. We have established the Void already. If we are to,
but we don't know that he's going to be referred to as.
I was going to say, if we are going to continue call this alter ego the Void, it would be very silly and extra confusing if we are to establish two different Voids, where one of them has been the only actual linchpin of what the Marvel multiverse has come down to. We've had many MacGuffins. The Void is the only one that has remained the constant. So if we are to continue to call his alter ego the Void, which I think we may, I could definitely, as MTF said, see them reworking his powers to that dimension.
Yeah, I think it would either be a different name entirely or the same thing. They wouldn't call both of them by the same name. I agree with you there 100%. It would be hilarious if they did, and they essentially did the same things with the Void as they've done with Anchor Beings, Absolute Points, Canon Events, Nexus Points, all of these things. And yeah, Ryan says that he was on the exact same plane. Sentry's the Void.
The Void Nexus Point, Anchor Being of the ultimate incursion.
It's all coming together. Let us know what you're most excited for this year. Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. Let us know on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Smash the like button if you're watching us live or after the fact. Thank you so much for joining us to both those we had a great live crew today in the chat. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for joining us. Hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell so you don't miss out on all the great stuff we have coming. Like I mentioned, Robert Kirkman and Simon Rasiopa, Invincible interviews. Julius Ona, the director of Brave New World, interview already all out on the YouTube page. We have Daredevil Born Again interviews coming out in about 3-ish weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Lots of great stuff coming, including live shows for Severance on Friday, Invincible on Thursday, Your Friendly Neighborhood on Spider-Man on Wednesday, as well as our extra review episode of Captain America Brave New World on Thursday. Busy week. 5 live shows, 6 shows when you include the Comic Corner. What is coming this week on the Comic Corner, Damon?
We exist too. We have Golly this week. I know one book at least is on my calendar, and that is Magic #2, because I've been in a stupid Magic kick. And also a little book called Absolute Batman #5. Absolute Batman was the #1 selling comic of 2024. It is very good, and if you haven't been reading any of the Absolute or Ultimate titles from Marvel, you're missing out, because that's some of the best stuff in comics right now. Is it TVA? Damon, is not TVA week this week. To quickly shout something out for all you MCU fans, there is a very high chance that the MCU quote unquote 616 Scarlet Witch will be making her Marvel Comics appearance in the TVA book. There's a lot of MCU going on in this TVA book that AF has been telling me all about, and things are happening.
Wanda stands, we got a new comic book for you. David, where can the people find you on socials, and where can they find the Direct Podcast? What do you guys have coming up on the pod?
Yeah, man, just posted a reaction to the Super Bowl trailers, pretty much all of them. A Captain America Brave New World primer that's up on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, at the Direct Podcast. For me, social media, TikTok, Instagram, X/Twitter, at David Thompson with 2 A's in the David. TJ, Damon, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. This has been a lot of fun chat. You guys are popping off. This was so much fun. I'm going to be back soon.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, thanks to everybody in the chat. We will see you hopefully Wednesday for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Thanks for joining us. Peace out.